On March 19, 2026, just one day after Joseph Duggar was taken into custody on extremely serious charges involving a minor, police officers walked through the front door of his family home in Tontitown, Arkansas. And what they found inside those walls wasn't nothing. It wasn't a clean home. It wasn't a safe home. The locks on the doors of two of the bedrooms weren't where you'd expect them to be. They weren't on the inside, where a child could turn the knob, open the door, and walk out into a hallway. They were on the outside. 4 children lived in that home. 4 children, ages 3 to 7, and both of their parents are now facing charges of false imprisonment. So before we go a single sentence further, I have to ask you, what exactly were those doors keeping those kids from doing? Hey everyone, welcome back to Jenny Exposes. If you're new to this channel, this is the place where we don't just scratch the surface of a story. We dig, we pull receipts, we follow the money, the family lines, and the silences. And today's story might be the darkest chapter in the entire 19 Kids and Counting universe so far. So before we go any further, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to hear is going to unravel in ways you do not see coming. And trust me, by the end of this video, you are going to have some very serious questions about what's been happening behind closed doors in that family for a very, very long time. Now, in case you've been living under a rock, or maybe you only know the Duggars from their wholesome reality show era, let me catch you up. Joseph Duggar is 31 years old. He starred alongside his parents and his many, many siblings on TLC's 19 Kids and Counting, a show that for years presented itself as the gold standard of squeaky clean American family values. His parents, Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, are devout Baptists. They raised 19 children with strict homeschooling, courtship rules instead of dating, no hand-holding before engagement, no kissing before marriage, and cameras in their faces for the better part of a decade. They were, supposedly, the family that was doing it right. But here's the part that the public can't seem to forget. Joseph isn't the first Duggar to find himself in this kind of headline. His older brother, Josh Duggar, was found guilty in 2022 of crimes involving exploitative material of minors, and he is currently serving a federal sentence of more than 12 years behind bars. So when Joseph's name surfaced in a criminal investigation, no one in the media or the audience paused to be shocked at the concept itself. The shock was that it had happened again, to another brother, inside the same family. Joseph married Kendra Caldwell back in 2017, when she was just 19 years old. They went on to have 4 young children together: Garrett, who is 7, Addison, who is 6, Brooklyn, who is 5, and little Justice, who is just 3 years old. From the outside, this looked like the next generation Duggar success story. Another big, smiling, photo-ready family. So how on earth did we get to a place where both parents have been arrested and all 4 of those children have been taken into protective custody? Sit tight, because this is where it starts to fall apart. The whole thing began to unravel on March 17, 2026, with one phone call. According to court documents, the father of a young teenage girl picked up the phone and called Joseph Duggar directly to confront him about something his daughter had disclosed. Something that allegedly happened back in 2020, when she was only 9 years old. And on that first call, Joseph reportedly admitted to it. Now stop and let that land for a second, because in the world of criminal investigations, a confession to a parent over the phone is one thing. What happened next is another thing entirely. Detectives in Tontitown, Arkansas asked the father to make a second call, this time with a detective listening on the line. And on that second recorded call, Joseph allegedly admitted to it again. According to the court paperwork, he reportedly told the father that his, quote, intentions were not pure. Those 4 words are now part of an active criminal case in the state of Florida. The young girl, who was 9 at the time of the alleged incidents and is now 14 years old, sat down with a forensic interviewer and described what she said happened during a 2020 family vacation in Panama City Beach. Now, I'm not going to walk you through the explicit details of what was reportedly described in that interview, because this channel is not the place for that. And frankly, that little girl deserves the basic dignity of not having her trauma narrated as entertainment. What I will tell you is what's already in the public court filings. She described inappropriate physical contact. She described being asked multiple times to sit on his lap. She described being asked to sit next to him on a couch under a blanket. And she described boundaries being crossed by an adult relative who was supposed to be safe. This is not a rumor. This is not a piece of internet gossip. According to the police, he said it himself, twice, on a recorded line. Now here's the twist that nobody outside the family circle saw coming. While the identity of the young girl in this case has not been publicly released, and it absolutely should not be, multiple insider sources have told outlets like The Blast that the alleged victim is closely connected to Kendra's side of the family. Kendra, Joseph's wife, the mother of his 4 children. Sources reportedly say that Kendra's own mother is not even hiding that connection within their community anymore. She knows. The community knows. So let that sink in for a moment. This wasn't a stranger's child. This wasn't a random encounter at a church event. This was, allegedly, a child within the family circle, both sides. Which means the question that has been quietly haunting this entire story is no longer hypothetical. Did Kendra know? Did she suspect? Was she told? Or was she also, in her own way, a product of a system that taught her not to ask questions, not to question the men of the household, not to make a scene, not to bring shame on the family? Because here's the thing. Right now, in 2026, with all of this exploding into public view, Kendra is reportedly siding with the Duggars, not with her own parents, not with the family of the alleged victim, with the Duggars. And that single fact is going to become more disturbing the more we keep going. Because what comes next? What comes next is what the police actually found inside that house. One day after Joseph Duggar was arrested, on March 20th, 2026, law enforcement officers conducted a home inspection at the Taneytown property. They were there because of his arrest. That's the trigger. That's the reason a search is happening. And what they reportedly found in that house is the part that, even for hardened reporters covering this case, made everyone go quiet. According to a source who spoke to Us Weekly, when the officers walked through the home, they discovered that 2 of the rooms had locks installed on the doors. But the locks weren't on the inside, the way a normal household lock works. They were on the outside, meaning whoever was inside that room couldn't unlock it. Only someone standing in the hallway could. Now combine that with what we already know. 4 young children, ages 3 to 7, lived in that home. Both Joseph and Kendra Duggar were arrested that same day. They are now each facing 4 counts of endangering the welfare of a minor and 4 counts of second-degree false imprisonment. Their own children, those 4 little kids, were removed from the home and placed in protective custody. The Duggars have publicly tried to argue that Kendra's charges are, quote, unrelated to Joseph's Florida case. But let's be honest with each other for a second. The investigators only walked into that home because Joseph had been arrested. The locks weren't found in spite of the case. They were found because of the case. So I'm going to ask the question that this family does not want anyone to ask out loud. Who, in any version of normal parenting, in any version of healthy family life, in any version of a household where children are loved and protected, installs a lock on the outside of a child's bedroom door? Who does that? And more importantly, why? Now here's where this story stops being just one local arrest and starts becoming a multi-state legal nightmare. Legal experts have already pointed out that it is somewhat unusual, in their words, for a single individual to be facing active criminal cases in 2 different states at the same time. Defense attorney Danny Rubin told Yahoo that even when a spouse isn't directly charged in the other state's case, overlapping investigations can still bleed into each other. Evidence collected in one case can absolutely be referenced in another. Testimony given in one courtroom can come back in the other. And defending 2 simultaneous cases on 2 different timelines in 2 different states with 2 different sets of prosecutors is enormously expensive and enormously draining for any defendant. Joseph Duggar has, at this point, posted a $600,000 bond in Florida. $600,000. To get out, he had to agree to a long list of conditions. He is barred from having any contact whatsoever with the alleged victim. He is barred from having unsupervised contact with any minor under the age of 18. And here's the part that you need to really understand. That second condition includes his own children. Read that again. A man who is the legal father of 4 children, all under the age of 8, is now legally prohibited from being alone with any of them. Not for a few minutes, not for a car ride, not for a bedtime story. He cannot be alone with his own kids. That is what a court has determined is necessary. That is the level of concern that even the bail conditions reflect. So when the family's public statements try to soften this and call it just a misunderstanding, just a difficult time, just a private family matter, remember that fact. A judge looked at this case and said, this man cannot be alone with his own children, period. So now let's talk about the family machine, because the Duggars do not let one of their own go down quietly. They have a script, and everyone in that orbit follows it. Within days of Joseph's arrest, Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar released a public statement. They said they are, quote, heartbroken over this entire situation. They said they are focused on, quote, helping Kendra and her children. Notice what's missing from that statement. There is no mention of the alleged victim. There is no mention of accountability. There is no mention of the years of patterns that have repeated themselves inside this family. There is no mention of the locks, just heartbreak, just damage control, just a public-facing message designed to manage the optics. And then, in the most predictable plot twist of all, who steps up to coordinate behind the scenes? Anna Duggar. Yes, that Anna Duggar, the wife of Josh Duggar, the same Anna who has stood by Josh through every single scandal, every single conviction, every single year of his federal sentence. According to reporting from Us Weekly and other outlets, Anna emailed Joseph at least 5 times while he was being held in solitary confinement. Her emails were not, are you okay? Do you need anything? How are you holding up emotionally? Her emails were tactical. They reminded him, quote, not to discuss any legal matters without an attorney present. They reminded him that all communication is monitored. And in a March 21st email, she gave him a status update on his wife. She told him she had spoken with Kendra for half an hour. She wrote, she loves you deeply. She wrote, my heart breaks for all of you. She wrote, I know she will win in the end. Anna Duggar. Standing by Josh, in federal custody for years, now rallying behind Joseph, coaching him on how to communicate from the inside. This is not a family that processes harm. This is a family that contains harm, and there is a very real difference between those two things. One faces what happened, the other manages it. But the most disturbing part of this entire story might not be inside the Duggar household. It might be what's happening to the people who are trying to leave it. According to a source quoted in Us Weekly, I don't know if it's fear or naivete, but Kendra has totally sided with the Duggars and not her own family. She is brainwashed, end quote. The same insider went on to say, and I want you to really hear this, that, quote, not many people are there to help Kendra's immediate family. I can't believe how the Duggars have treated the Caldwells. They want them out. They had the lights and electricity cut off from the house they are in. It's awful. They are trying to get out, end quote. Now, I want to be very clear. These are claims from anonymous sources. These are not, at this stage, court findings. But the broader context absolutely supports them. Kendra's father is Paul Caldwell. He is a pastor and a mechanic by trade. Paul has reportedly launched a GoFundMe to help cover moving expenses and basic housing costs for his own family. His own family. The grandparents of those 4 little kids who were just removed from their home. They are, allegedly, having to crowdfund their way out of a property where the power has been cut. Sources have said for years that there has been long-standing tension between the Caldwells and the Duggars. Quote, Paul didn't get wrapped up in the whole fame of the Duggars. Last I heard, he was pretty upset with Jim Bob because he treats marriages like business deals. End quote. Read that line one more time. He treats marriages like business deals. So now picture it. The grandfather who has reportedly been the most uncomfortable with this dynamic for years is the one being financially squeezed. Lights cut off, trying to move, asking strangers on the internet for help. While his own daughter, the one in the middle of all of this, is reportedly cutting him off and standing with the very family that is causing the harm. This is not a falling out. This is not a disagreement at Thanksgiving dinner. This is, by all available accounts, a coordinated push to isolate Kendra from her own parents at the exact moment she needs them the most. That is not a family. That is something else entirely. And then we get to yesterday. Because this story is not from years ago. This story is unfolding in real time while you are watching this video. On April 28, 2026, Elm Springs District Court confirmed that both Joseph and Kendra Duggar have entered not guilty pleas to the child endangerment and false imprisonment charges. Their next court appearance has been scheduled for August 10th. So we have months of legal maneuvering ahead before the next major moment. But there is one more development from this week that I really need you to pay attention to. A judge has now dissolved the no-contact order that was barring Kendra from seeing her own children. That order had been in place ever since her March 20th arrest, which means, as of right now, Kendra can see her kids again. Joseph still cannot be alone with any minor, including those same kids. And meanwhile, completely separately, the Florida case involving the original allegations is still moving forward through pretrial proceedings. There will be arguments about evidence. There will be arguments about what testimony is admissible. There will be a decision, eventually, about whether Joseph Duggar's case in Florida goes to a full trial in front of a jury, or whether it is resolved through some kind of plea arrangement. So right now, today, this is where everything stands. 2 not guilty pleas in Arkansas. 1 Florida case is still pending. 4 children removed and now slowly being reintegrated with 1 parent. A bond of $600,000. A father legally barred from being alone with his own children. A wife reportedly cut off from her own parents. A grandfather crowdfunding to keep the lights on. And an entire extended family closing ranks around the accused. Again, just like they did before. August 10th. Mark that date. So let's pull all the way back and look at the whole picture. Because I think a lot of people are going to walk away from this story and call it a reality TV scandal. Another season of Duggar drama. Another headline. Another news cycle. And I want to push back on that, hard. Here is what we actually know, just from the public record alone. A young girl, who was 9 years old at the time, allegedly experienced inappropriate contact from someone she trusted. According to investigators, Joseph Duggar reportedly admitted to it, twice, on a recorded phone call. When law enforcement entered his home one day after his arrest, they reportedly found locks installed on the outside of bedroom doors. Both parents were arrested. All 4 children were removed from the home. One side of the family is publicly closing ranks around the accused. The other side of the family, Kendra's own parents, are reportedly being financially squeezed out, with sources claiming the power was cut off at their residence. Kendra herself, the mother in the middle of all of this, is reportedly siding with the Duggars and described by insiders as brainwashed. This is not a tabloid story. This is not a TLC reunion special. This is a pattern. This is what control looks like when it has been operating quietly for years and finally cracks open in front of a camera. And the question, the real question, the one that I think every single person watching this video should be sitting with tonight, is this. How long was this happening, behind closed doors, before anyone on the outside saw a single sign? How many family vacations? How many holidays? How many smiling photo ops? How many courtship announcements? How many talk show interviews? How many years of being held up as the model Christian family in America, while these patterns kept unfolding, generation after generation, in private? This is not just one bad apple. This is an orchard. And I think the public is finally starting to see it. If this video opened your eyes, if it gave you context that the mainstream coverage didn't, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with your honest reaction because I read every single one, and share this video with someone who still thinks this story is just about one arrest. Because it isn't. It never was. I'm Jenny. This is Jenny Exposes, and I will see you in the next one.